Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke saying hi, how you doing? Well, today is going to be a technical format video in regards to doing a teardown of my, partial teardown I should say, of my rack enclosure over here. One of them is specifically more than the other. What I'm referring to is, if you want to look over here, you'll see that I've got a couple of 720s in here, and I've got some of the disk array platforms which are out here as well. And I'm going to start reducing this footprint to a certain degree so that I can do some additional footprint work, like I've been discussing about reproportionalizing my environment. So I can kind of start focusing on, I guess, a Proxmox equivalency and AI integration with multiple service provider emulations. For instance, I'm going to simulate two different service providers that are going to act as a distribution HA pairing. But to do that, I got to get this gear kind of restructured and formatted in a specific format to meet my requirements. So starting here, I'm going to be targeting the bottom array. That's a 720, Dell 7 DX720, and I'm also going to be working with the 3-par, which is right there with the yellowish footprints. I'm going to take that one out as well. And up here, as you notice, I have a 917 series, which is actually a DX 730-ish kind of chipset that's out there. And of course, you'll see right there, and it says Proxmox 1 on it there. That one is a 730. So with that, I've got over on this side, let me adjust the video here for you. Over here I have my NetApp stack array down here at the bottom, just below the orange strip. That NetApp array is going to come out, which I'm kind of sad about, but it's also good about. I'm going to keep the array above it with the orange strip on it. That's an EMC disk array. And we've got 3 different sets here in regards to disk arrays, and I'm going to reduce those down. And of course, right up here with the yellowish topping, that's also a DX720. That was my old TrueNAS footprint. It's a big footprint. I've got disks fully populated in it, as you can see here. And so I'll be repopulating these disks from down here to here in sequential orders so that I can prioritize the nature of the disk footprints and keep them in the proper channels. So I've already got a temporary build out here, which if you look inside, it's got disks in it. And that's going to stay. This will stay. This is a 730. This one was going to go. It's a 720. This one will stay, and it's got SSD drives in it. And this one is empty, so it's going to come out. And I'll displace that one as well. I might displace it in place of the 3-par. I might not. I haven't decided yet. But anyways, the point is, today I'm going to be pulling the gear out, and I'll talk to that as I do that. And I'll be stacking it over on the side as I do it and prepare for it. If anyone is interested in buying these arrays, they're all good. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just I want to continue on my R&D work. And to do that successfully, I have to make sure that I'm footprinting everything the right way. So I will also probably look at repurposing some of the stack rails and the rack mount rails if I can. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. With that being said, we'll begin. So first I'm starting off with the isolated blocks, which are already kind of blocked out and set in place. And this is a 720 disk array. And it's heavily populated. There's about 116 gigs in it, roughly, I believe. One of these do. The other one has 96. Fully working, fully operational. No issues whatsoever with it. But periodically, I do find it, because the chipset functionality is a little bit more antiquated. So I wanted to work at transitioning over to the 12 gigabit architectures and step away from the 6 gigabit architectures here. But this has been a great chassis. It's done excellent work for me. I've never had a problem with it, and I'm very pleased with it. A friend of mine, Gary Manis, had a surplus of these. He gave me the heads up about them, and I was able to source them out. And I've used these for churches and other projects and they've had a long history of functionality. And since they're enterprise platforms, they meet a different kind of requirement, and they're closer to telecom. And telecom functionality is valuable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this one out and stage it. Weighs about 40 pounds, give or take. And one of the power supplies fell out. Let me pick that up. Okay, so next will be the 3-par. The 3-par is a little bit more complicated. It sits on a template footprint, and it's going to require some deconstruction, but it is basically an empty disk array. I just don't. It's okay. It's not a great system. It's not a weak system, but it's definitely very temperamental. So I've used it to disprove a lot of people's notions that the 3-pars are not native SAS. They are. You just have to handle them differently. So I'm going to first go ahead and free up the configuration, feed ups, the cabling, the power setup, and all of that, so it's in the clear so I can remove it. I'll probably have to display some other components too, but that's okay. I was going to do that anyways. Okay, so I've cleared the components, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy out to make sure he is in the clear. Yeah, he is. Okay. So we're going to pull 3-par set out. Okay, I think all of them are secured. Put this over here. Put it back in here, the 730 preset with its GPU on board. Yeah, it is. Stand by. Okay. Okay, so that will basically afford us the ability to put the 7910 chassis back in as well. Okay. Now, if you remember, this guy right here was my Gen 9 HP platform that were spare parts. And let me elevate this up so you can see this. There you go. This is the Gen 9 platform that I worked on about 1.5 years ago. These are the spare parts ones, opposed to the ones I have over on the other side. But I'm going to move this guy down here to this lower level so I can pull the Gen 8 out. Okay, so now I'm going to raise this up some more. Now here you see a classic. This is a DL380. Sorry, it's not a Gen 8, it's a Gen 7. But actually it's not a Gen 7, it's a Gen 8 motherboard on board. And as you can see, it has spare drives in it. And it's been a great entry-level, great chassis for entry-level work. You can really develop a lot of skill sets with these platforms. And of course, a thin line SSD drive. So this is also a chassis platform, but it has a rack rail set on it. I'll try to look at that rack set to see if I could repurpose it for the Gen 9. But I'm going to be looking at pulling this guy out as well. So stand by. Now these rack rails are tensioners. In other words, they are held in place by release locks that are located on top and bottom. And if you do them right, they'll release themselves correctly, and you'll free them up. Okay. Yeah. Now this has got kind of an issue with it. Let me get a tool set so I can get this off correctly. Okay, so we have this side of the enclosure done. And for now, I'm going to gap this up. By gapping it up, it will allow me to control the airflow both at the bottom level and at the upper level. So to do that, I will use sections. These sectionals basically are panels that we'll put in place to gap these up correctly. Stand by for a second. Need to go get a drill. Okay, so we have the drill here, which you can see very clearly. It's going to provide me the ability to drill in the what's called, in this case, going to be what's called leak style heads these heads lock into place. We use a special tool for that. And this is what the tool looks like. And what it does is it catches the sleeve of the unit and locks it into its place. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start first by sealing up or setting the distance heights based on the 1U footprint. So in this case, I'm going to go in here, take my tool, and I'm going to lock this guy into its slot lock. Like that. Just pull it right in. And that's all you need to do. And again, on the opposite side. And in this case, we're doing it at the 15U marker. Some racks don't have proper identification because they're cheaper. But basically, a 1U is the equivalency of about a 4-inch gap. And then you work with that gapping to meet your requirements. Now, if I use a big panel like this, as you can see here, and the panel's put in place, you'll find very quickly that even though you put the panel in, your mark sets off. And that's okay. That's normal. That's not surprising. And it tells you where you're going to have it. So in this case, the mounting points are wrong. So I'm going to go back in and take them out and put them in the right place. This part's never fun, really. But it's the same literal process. You just got to do it backwards. And you take it up and you flip your tool back around to the normal side and you grab your link, and now it's in the right position. I'll do it over here as well. These the brass ones are a little bit more of a pain in the butt, but that's just because they're a tighter fit. I like them. They are better than the other aluminum-based ones, because if you pull on them too hard, if you pull on them way too hard, they'll actually bend, and they're no good. That's why I kind of like to use the brass ones at the base, because if I do that, then I can get my placement the way I want, and it's going to go in, it's going to stay in really well. So now I got to get my next mark, which is on the 18th hole. I'll do that one next. This time I'll use an aluminum one. And the nice thing about the aluminum ones, they're so weak, you can just push them out with your finger. Just like that. And that is nice. But if you push too hard, you've broken that bad boy. That's the bad part about it. Okay, so we're ready. Now, we're going to go ahead and put the first one in place, temporarily, of course. The diameter is not working quite right. I have the wrong screw here. Confirm. There it goes. Alright, that's good. That's good. last one. This one might give me some grief. Oh, okay. So you notice that I have still have a gapping up there that doesn't seem to work really well. So to address that, what I can do is I can use these. These are 1U fillers, and they can go in here. Well, not like that, of course. They can go in here and fill that gap up. Now the good news is I have a gap set here already, the one at the top. So outside of my missing 1U unit, let me go ahead and do that real quick. And what I can do is I can use a long set screw, because these guys are kind of hard to reach, and so they're easier to thread in their home while they are, oops, it's all backwards. Flip that. So the placement's correct, and by threading it in its set while it's way out there will make it so much easier to put it in place. And good. Now the noise you hear from this drill is set because the torque threshold on the drill is only set to 3 pounds. I don't want to put pressure on these, so by carefully and cautiously not doing that, I'll be able to protect the actual setup in a way so it's not going to be at risk for damage. And you have to pay attention to that, because if you don't take the time to get these right the first time, they will not work correctly, and they'll give you grief because they'll strip out, and trust me, you don't want that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put another C-clamp in here, and this is a C-clamp, not a pressure clamp, as you notice, and what it does is it basically allows you to just simply put it into place. Here, it's easier to do it when you're not directly in front of it. Like this way, you catch the edge and you just slightly press out, and it will snap right in. I'm in a bad position sitting down here. I might not be able to get this one on. I might. Let's see. It's just hard on the hand. That's all. Yeah, let me get up. Go figure. Yeah. Easier way to do it is just from the back. There it goes. Perfect. Now you take your next 1U panel and you put it in its place. And you've got yourself a good snug fit. Again, grab a long neck screw and put that one in its place. Come on. Sometimes they don't line up correctly, and so they tend to fight you. The nice thing about the long neck screws is you can have a short bit on your drill. Okay, so air circulation is controlled again. That's important because these boxes run hot. Now I do have a ventilation right down here, a 1U that's perforated, but I got to make sure I close up this spot down here as well, to make sure that only the servers are sucking in the cool air, not the gaps underneath them. So I'm going to pause the video for a second while I quickly set that up, and we'll go to the next rack. Okay, so now we got the bottom done. It's all blocked up, and we have the upper section done. And then that means now we're going to pay attention to this side. So these little clamps are pretty valuable, but I have a piece of advice to give everybody out there. When you have these in volume, what ends up happening is you get a thing full of units here, right? But if you notice in mine, I always mate the screws to the sockets. It's such a pain in the butt when you find them out there all by themselves. Which one is the right one to have to do what you need to get done? So I usually put the screws into the sockets so I can get to them quickly and efficiently. So now what we're going to talk about next is we are going to take out the old, fully functional 720. This is my old TrueNAS. And our NetApp, my wonderful, lovely NetApp disk array here, 2642, I believe. I'll have to look up the model. But anyways, and we're going to pull those two out. We're going to reproportionalize everything. This guy is the replacement for, let me raise this up a little bit so you can see better. This is the new 730 right here. That's going to retire this 720. So I'm going to go ahead and get that staged. I already have a mini version of this guy in existence using a video I did on a older NAS platform that turned into a TrueNAS platform. So this guy is going to have a home similar to the footprint we've got here, but this will all get reorganized. So I'm not going to record all of this. It's pretty simple, straightforward stuff, mind you. We're just basically disconnecting and connecting power cables and so on. So I'm just going to be shifting these things around a little bit so that they can be better placed closer to each other and closer to the ground, because these guys run hot. And when they run hot, you want to make sure that you're preparing your model convection airflow wise so that the coolest spot in your room is exchanging that cool air within the internal structure of the chassis. And this is a closed room. And the HVAC unit, which is sitting over here on the side running right now, will keep the air cool enough to do what we need to have done, but at the same point in time it will also circulate the air so that we can feel comfortable keeping everything cool. Now, this room can get pretty, I'd say 74, 76 degrees when I have like 6 or 7 of these boxes running at once. So you have to be careful how you bring your projects up. I can bring more of our mini clusters up than I could bring if I brought all this stuff up, or if I turned on that big boy on the bottom. That's my quad. That makes heat, and that's okay, because there are times when I need to use that quad, but there most of the times I don't. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to be redistributing a lot of this footprint here and prepping it for transition for the new 730 array. And that will be a separate discussion, because I have to prep the 730 up here with its new configurations. That will be a video I'll do as well, using a special bridge card that will allow me to use NVMEs as paired over SSDs. And that way I can have a very fast operational front end ready to support the SSD configurations I'm going to put down from that little guy down there with the orange stripes across the bottom, which is nothing but SSD drives. So that will give me, 12 gigabit bandwidth, and that's what I'm looking for. I want that, 12 gigabyte bandwidth in the SAS controller setup which I've got built on this new 730. So with that being the case, I'm going to pause the take here, and I'll get into more discussion on that. It's mostly just a repeat of what you've already seen. Pulling out a disk array, or pulling out another 720, rebalance everything, and get it back into place, and you'll see the footprint. I'll be right back. Alright, special note, as I'm getting ready to pull out these chassis, this is a very special little cable here I've got. It's a SAS to a mini SAS cable, and it's unique for this particular disc array right here that can allow me to step through one standard of SAS into a different standard of SAS. My suggestion is don't lose these guys, because when you do, you can't find it. That's not good. So I'm going to set that aside for now so I can work with that. But I think we're ready now to start pulling this hardware out. Yep, we are. Alright, so let me go ahead and get this going. Alright, to give you a progress report, we've already cleared out the 720, and this is why I like this guy so much. This is an SSD disk array with its controller and interface and everything on board, but it is so small. Because if you look at the size of the NetApp down below, it's huge. I mean, look at it. Not twice as big, literally. So it makes you think, doesn't it? It does me. Anyways, it runs hotter, and it's not as efficient as I'd like it to be. But it's a great disk array. Don't get me wrong. It makes me sad to give it up, basically. But as you can see, I had to provide special ventilation down below to allow it to breathe right. But now what I can do is I will be able to put this in eventually. This is the chassis footprint. I can't use it right now, wish I could, because the 720 has got to be repositioned as well. So that's going to come out next. And when I'm sorry, the 730, this guy right here, he's coming out next. I just have to make sure he's secure, so stand by. Okay, so we've got the panel sections cleared out and prepped, and I've got suspension cables in there, and I'm going to start removing all those back cables you see back there in the background. But we're going to be putting the 730 down on the bottom. It's going to act as a shelf for the disk shelf, but I'll buttress the shelf with screws, so the shelf themselves will eventually lift the weight off of the server chassis, so it is easier for me to remove that chassis over time. But I could put just shelving locks in there and gap it. I haven't decided yet, but I think I'll make that decision very quickly here in a couple of minutes. But this is just an example of what I'm talking about. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll size them and place them so you can look at that, and then you'll see what I'm talking about by gapping it. So as you can see here, the 730 is in place temporarily. Now I can opt to put the SSD disk array directly on top of that chassis, but it'll make it difficult for me to service that chassis because I do have to pull it out a few times to finish it up. So I have a possible solution for that. So what I can do is I can put these guys in. These are L bracket universals, and for the light weight of the actual disk housing, let me check it real quick to make sure. Yep, this will work. So with the light weight of the disk housing itself, I can actually use these and get the weight off of the chassis by gapping it just a little bit, not so much. Now because we're going to gap it, we're going to use a perforated air breather between them. So I'll get this set up. I'm going to have to kind of force config the old NetApp rack configuration below to receive the 730 a little better than it does now, because it won't go in completely. But stand by for a second and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I was able to get the 730 to fit in correctly so I can properly gap everything else out. So the next couple of minutes I'll set up the additional rail sets and get that in place next. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this now. Now over here you see the filler panels which I put in, and they're designed specifically to control the airflow based on all of the gear, which is right here, that I've removed. And over here I have the quad on the bottom, air gapping space, the 730 here, air gapping again, disk array, controlled airflow, air gapping again, to keep that heat, central heat flowing because this is going to handle the workload and be up the longest in regards to the system environment. So I've also removed other equipment, and I've gapped those spots out too, leaving just strictly my high-end GPU AI engines, that one right there and this one down here, and my principal engine and my 2 testbed high-end engines, and my little bastard child down there on the bottom for AI testing, and of course Mama being the big database engine. Of course, my testbed diagnostic station is still here, my Raspberry Pi clusters here, and my upper sections of the Proxmox service providers nodes are up here, and basically it's all working in place. I've got my 2 infrastructure switches, one there, one here. I've got my backend high-speed database in 10 gigabit bandwidth here, and I'm basically set. Now, does everything run 10 gigabit? No, I don't need it to. But what I do need to do is work in a pyramid construct from demand and bandwidth all the way up to task, which is down to the 1 gigabit bandwidth. And those are going to do just fine. So with this being done, I'm going to have a few more videos I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how you can recycle your old chassis, put them available for somebody to buy. Or if any of you guys are interested in some of the chassis, let me know. We'll communicate and we'll see what we can discuss on that. But I'm going to show you how you break down the older chassis, reassess the equipment inside them to determine, is this salvageable, is this not salvageable, is there a value, is there not a value, and what we call preparation of a chassis that is to be retired. I do some basic cleaning, I do all the prerequisites, I make sure things work. So if I do donate it to an organization like a church or a school system, I know that when I gave it to them, it was working just fine. All they have to do is work from there and improve upon the chassis they would like to do. But with that being said, there are also very important components inside these chassis also that are valuable, such as 10 gig NICs, SAS controllers, bridge controllers, USB 3.0 controllers, blah, 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 to enhance the servers so they can do special things I need them to do. Great for like storage dumping when you want to use what's called a storage mule, and you have USB 3.0 bandwidth on these chassis. It makes a huge difference when it comes to retiring them. But with that being said, the only thing else I'm going to do for now is I will prepare the equipment so that it's ready for what we call the pre-stage environment, and that means I'll be adding additional hardware to the 730 TrueNAS head and start to build that guy out and turn him into an operational unit, which we can then turn her around and replace the older one, which I have down here on the floor. Then of course, when I bring that up, I'll show you how you synchronize the disk arrays properly so that they can be sequentially identified and in accordance to channeling. Now, channeling is important when it comes to this, because if you have SAS 10,000s and 15,000s and SSD drives, you don't want them mixed. You want to make sure that you're channeling them. In other words, a disk array will have 4 channels or 4 sets of disks in a sequence of arrays, and those channels handle bus widthing, or the bus width, the data bus speeds in accordance to the channel, and they work in contiguous configurations, because that's how SAS works. Because by doing that, you can multi-path data pathways and have dual pathing. Hence the reason why in the days of SANs and NASs, we had many disks that were arrays of their own, and then they're intertwined with each other to formulate enterprise disk arrays. And of course, that would provide storage capacity for your requirements. So with that being the case, I'm going to bring this video to a conclusion on the hardware side. I'll do a software discussion video next, and I'll post those out, and then I'll be pursuing the configuration and staging in that next process. So this is Brad Dyke. God bless and have a great week. Take care.